So I wanted to thank you, Claire and Carol Sue, for inviting me to share a few words about an organization that I am passionate about and share some thoughts with you all about leadership and mentoring, which are topics I am passionate about. Let me say first that all of these things could be a standalone topic, so I can only just touch on each of them. First, I want to tell you about WRJ, the Women of Reform Judaism, which our sisterhood is a member of. North American sisterhoods and women's groups are organized into 8 WRJ districts, which hold a variety of events throughout the year, including biennial conventions, area events, and more. Our district, which is the Southwest District, will be holding our virtual convention in November. And besides what we call the nuts and bolts, which is, membership and budgeting and fundraising, we are also planning sessions on diversity, on volunteer and work-life balance. And we have a couple of guest speakers who will knock your socks off, one being our own David Siegel, Rabbi Siegel, and one being Mara God, a Jew of color who has written a memoir which is just outstanding. WRJ offers consultants and speakers, women who will share their knowledge and expertise with our sisterhood on a number of topics. WRJ provides speakers at no cost to the sisterhood. I've been a speaker in places as far-ranging as Hawaii and Idaho. I just did a board training for a sisterhood in Seattle over Zoom. You all may know that WRJ provides scholarships for clergy at HUC-JIR. But in the past several years, we have extended our philanthropy to many other worthwhile organizations, including the URJ-WRJ PJ Library Partnership, which you should try to say 3 times. It's a tongue twister. URJ 6 Points SciTech Camp Scholarships for Girls, and the Fight for Pluralism at the Western Wall. So when I say WRJ's philanthropy, I mean our philanthropy, because the funds used for these grants and scholarships come from each one of us who contribute to the Yes Fund. WRJ also supports the salary of a legislative aide at the Religious Action Center who works exclusively in the areas of particular interest to women. As members of a WRJ sisterhood, all of us have access to an online platform called Yammer that allows members to not only search for resources, but also to connect with one another, to ask questions and share ideas. Right now, one of the most active groups on Yammer is the online programming group, where I'm a moderator. Any sisterhood that is doing online programming can post the information there, and then anyone else from any other sisterhood can participate. It's really kind of a fun thing. And then WRJ in that same place will post their own programming that's online and programming from other sources that might be of interest to our members. If you're interested in getting on Yammer, just contact me and I'll help you. And watch our own sisterhood email blast for a couple of online programming opportunities coming up soon. From WRJ's mission statement, I will leave this portion of my little talk with this news. WRJ does advocacy work, provides connections, supports our spirituality, and strengthens the voice of progressive Judaism worldwide. And WRJ does all of these things on our behalf because we are truly stronger together. So I'm a quote person, and here's one of my favorites when I think about leadership and mentoring. Always choose influence rather than power. It helps change people into people who can change the world. And another, a leader who inspires others and is comfortable with failure to take risks and is comfortable with failure at the same time supporting them will inspire tremendous loyalty. So what makes a good leader? Good question. I think that in Judaism, leadership is about behavior, not words or job titles. And I think there are three main attributes of a great leader. I think a great leader has passion. She believes in and is able to communicate the mission and vision of her organization. A leader lights up when she talks about her organization and the work it does. Let's remember that a leader leads all the time, and people are always listening. A good leader listens. Active listening strengthens relationships, builds trust, improves relationships, and shows others that you care. Active listeners actually pay attention to what others are telling them. Good leaders are empathetic and non-judgmental, and they encourage people to speak up. They approach people and ask them to weigh in on new ideas. But for those of you who know me, this will be no surprise. My favorite thing about a great leader is someone who's a risk taker. Leaders are willing to take risks to change the paradigm and shake up the status quo. Without risk-taking, you remain stagnant, predictable, and ultimately, you may become complacent. The times we are in right now call for us all to pivot and take risks. Risk-taking is an increasingly important element of leadership, and I think it's essential for a leader's effectiveness. Risk-taking can be defined as undertaking a task in which there is a lack of certainty or a fear of failure. The problem that I see at the core of risk-taking is fear. Fear of failure, fear of looking like a fool, fear of being seen as ignorant, or fear of seeming too aggressive. Taking a risk means confronting those challenges and those fears and having the courage to move forward. Taking a risk is the best way and often the only way to add to your knowledge about what works and what doesn't. It's important to know whether the statement that we have all heard, oh no, that can't be done, is actually right or wrong. Knowledge itself brings built-in risks. As it expands, you may learn things about yourself that you don't like. You may discover areas of your personality that need a little work. You may have to take action, make changes, and grow. Knowledge robs you of the luxury of ignorance. But if you're honest, you can use your new self-perceptions to strengthen your effectiveness as a leader. So if we accept the premise that leaders lead primarily by example, then you have to send a strong message to people that says it's okay to make a mistake while taking a risk. If you don't send that message, you are crippling people with the burden of perfection. When you can admit that you have made a mistake and say things like, I really blew that one, I'm sorry. Let's try that again. You build a bond between you and others. Helping people take a risk is a vital job of a leader. You need people who will try something new rather than stick with the comfortable. If someone has an idea for a program or a project, let's be open to taking that risk, to allowing those new ideas into the fabric of your organization. How many good ideas are lost because they get bogged down with the fear of taking a risk, of doing something new that hasn't been done before? And how many people are turned away and turned off because their ideas were lost in the fear of taking a risk? Now let's remember, being a leader doesn't mean you do it all by yourself. The officers of any organization should be the visionary, supportive leaders, not the folks doing all the work. That's why God made committees. A successful leader inspires and empowers others to make the work of the organization happen. So, for example, I once went to a sisterhood on a speaking gig, and I asked all the various VPs what they each did. Every single one of them said the same thing. Oh, we get our marching orders from the president. She likes to be involved in everything we do. She directs all the VPs. And now that I think of it, that's really a bottleneck in doing new things. When I dug deeper, I found that the same women were on the board and the same women came to events, and this sisterhood was crying about not getting new folks to participate. Didn't surprise me. So by the time I left that retreat, I had commitments from the women in attendance to change the culture of that sisterhood, to empower each woman on the board to take a risk, step up, and own an activity. They agreed to look at each other as leaders, not followers. So let's look back at what makes a great leader. It's hard to be enthusiastic and light up every time you talk about your organization if you are exhausted from doing. If we all let go of our need to be involved in every decision, every task, every meeting, every phone call, and let our leaders lead, we will be able to remember the joy and excitement we felt when we first began our sisterhood journey. And that joy, that genuine love for the work we do, it will naturally involve others and attract them to join us. Now let's think about this idea just a little more. If we are leading leaders, we are giving everyone an opportunity to make decisions. We are empowering each woman in our sisterhood and on our board to take an idea and run with it. We don't need to be micromanaging. We need to set goals and objectives and then allow women to flourish and grow in their roles. Women will feel good about themselves and about the organization. Leading leaders gives us an opportunity to coach and mentor, to share our vision for the organization. So let's talk about mentoring for just a minute. Often, mentors and mentees find each other. We find a person whom we respect, whose leadership skills we admire and aspire to, and whose values we share. Sometimes we approach these people and outright ask their help. Other times, the relationship builds over time, building trust as it develops. And then there are those leaders who recognize potential in others and take them under their wing. That's another great way of mentoring. When you delegate true responsibility to others, when you step back and allow committee chairs to operate without micromanaging, you have time to mentor others. When I was president of our district, I had those little plastic wristbands made to honor my mentor, Dolores Wilkenfeld. And the little plastic things had the initials WWDD. What would Dolores do? I still have my little plastic bracelet. So I packed a lot into a few short minutes, but hopefully I've given you some ideas to think about as we begin this new sisterhood year. Mazel tov to all of our officers and board members, and may we go from strength to strength.